Today, we're going to talk about something at the absolute core of the ADHD experience. It's this phenomenon that goes way beyond just being distracted. It's about how objects, tasks, and yeah, even people can seem to just vanish the second they're out of sight.
This sentence right here, it just perfectly captures a deep, deep reality for so many of us. And look, I know it sounds a little dramatic, but it's actually neurologically on point. This isn't about being forgetful in the way most people think. It's about how the ADHD brain decides what's real and what's not, moment to moment.
So, you know that bill you had to pay? Or the keys you literally just had in your hand? Well, for an ADHD brain, that object isn't just misplaced.
And it hasn't just been kind of pushed to the back of your to-do list.
From your brain's point of view, it is gone. Poof, like it never even existed. And seriously, that is not an exaggeration. So, what is actually going on here?
Right, let's get into this disappearing act. And to really get it, we have to start by busting the single biggest myth about ADHD that's out there.
Everybody loves to chalk ADHD up to that classic, "oh look, a squirrel," idea of distraction. But that's not really it. The reality is, well, it's a lot more absolute. It's more like this. I put something down, I turn around, and my brain immediately files that thing under historical events.
And what kind of stuff gets filed away? Oh, pretty much anything that isn't staring you right in the face. Those bills you put in a drawer to be safe, they're basically ancient artifacts now. The healthy food you bought and put in the bottom of the fridge? A fossil record. That super important project tab you closed on your computer so you could focus? Nope, that was from a past life. Gone.
And of course, this all leads to the single most unhelpful piece of advice in the entire world. Just remember it. Ah, yes. Brilliant. Why didn't neuroscience think of that? If only it were that easy. This isn't a willpower problem, you guys. It's a wiring problem.
So let's actually look at that wiring. What's happening on a neurological level that causes this whole disappearing act?
Okay, so the concept we're really talking about here is an issue with attention-based object permanence. Now let's be super clear. This is not the same thing as that developmental stage in babies playing peekaboo. An adult with ADHD knows, logically, that the object still exists somewhere. The problem is the brain's ability to keep that object prioritized, to keep it mentally online without a direct, visible cue.
And this slide is so interesting because it really gets to the core of it. A memory-driven brain, it can run on internal cues. It can keep long-term goals just humming along quietly in the background. But a stimulus-driven brain, and that's the ADHD brain, it runs on what's right in front of it, what's visible, what's urgent, what's emotionally loud right now.
And that brings us to the most important point of this whole thing. Out of sight, out of mind isn't quite right. A better way to say it is out of sight, out of the brain's available power supply. If something isn't giving off an active signal, the brain just cuts power to it, so it can divert those precious resources to whatever is making noise.
So as you can imagine, this neurological feature has a massive, massive impact. And not just on getting things done, but on your emotional well-being, on your relationships. Let's talk about the consequences.
Because this whole process is invisible to the outside world, it gets completely misinterpreted. People don't see a brain cutting power to a non-stimulus. They just see a result. And that result gets a label. And if you have ADHD, I bet you've heard all of these. You're so irresponsible. You just don't care enough. And maybe the worst one. If it was actually important to you, you would have remembered.
And that is just the cruelest disconnect, isn't it? Because the internal reality is a whole different story. The person with ADHD often did care, a lot. But that feeling of importance was tied to the object's presence. When the object disappeared, so did the signal that was screaming, "Hey, this is important."
So what does that leave you with? It's this truly toxic emotional cocktail. You've got confusion because you remember the feeling of caring, but you can't access the task itself. And that leads to this deep, deep shame and a sense of guilt that feels like it came out of nowhere.
Okay, so if this is a hardwired brain thing, what in the world can you do about it? Well, this brings us to the most practical and honestly empowering part of this whole explainer. How to work with your brain instead of constantly fighting against it.
The very first step is to accept one fundamental truth. When it comes to this stuff, trying harder is a totally useless strategy. You cannot brute force your brain into prioritizing something that's invisible. It's like asking your computer to run software without plugging it in. So if just gritting your teeth is off the table, what actually works?
You have to accept that this isn't a motivation problem, it's an architecture problem. You can't change your brain's fundamental blueprint with willpower alone, so you have to build a system around it.
And this slide, this is brilliant. It shows you what that system looks like. The whole idea is to outsource your memory to your environment. So, instead of drawers, use open shelves where you can see everything. Instead of putting things away, you strategically leave important stuff right in your path, so you're forced to interact with it. Use sticky notes, not as gentle little reminders, but to basically harass yourself into remembering. And set up digital alerts that are aggressive and will not let you politely swipe them away.
And let's be perfectly clear on this. This is not a crutch. It is not cheating. It's a brilliant and necessary adaptation. You're just creating an environment that does the remembering for you, so your brain doesn't have to carry a load it was never designed for in the first place.
And that brings us to a final and really crucial way to reframe all this. An ADHD brain isn't a broken or deficient version of a normal brain. It is a brain that is exquisitely tuned to the here and now. In this tuning, it's a trade-off. We've seen the cost, right? It's poor storage for invisible information. But the benefit? The flip side, incredible responsiveness. This exact same wiring is what allows for things like intense hyperfocus, super quick reactions, and spotting patterns that other people completely miss.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? The goal isn't to try and force an ADHD brain to be something it's not. The goal is to understand its unique operating system, and then to design a life in an environment that plays to its strengths, not its weaknesses. Because when you stop fighting your brain and you start designing for it, that's when things finally start to click.